The Post Office Horizon scandal is the biggest miscarriage of justice in British legal history. But after all of this time, despite the shatter and the ruin of thousands of innocent lives, the scandal isn't over. The battle still goes on to get the compensation and redress for thousands of innocent victims. This is how Lee Castleton, one of the victims, spoke about this to the BBC this week.
The next scandal will be the scandal of the way that the scheme's being run.
Yeah. The new government has made some big steps forward. About £500 million of redress payment has been paid out. It's put up the budget for redress and compensation to 1.8 billion, and you can see that money now clearly in the Treasury accounts. Crucially, the ministers have also insisted the Post Office write to thousands of potential victims to make sure that they know that they can apply for compensation and redress if they're entitled to it. But the bottom line is this: 70% of the budget for redress still hasn't been paid out. The legal bills are completely out of control. £136 million has now been paid out to Post Office lawyers. And victims describe going through the process to get redress payments as akin to a second trial. This is how Neil Hodge, one of the victims' lawyers, described it to us on our committee. I think the redress schemes as they're designed today are heaping injury on injury.
Well, I don't think it's just me that says that. You know, we've obtained significant volumes of medical evidence, which the Post Office and government have seen, that actually talks about the process of compensation as actually making people unwell.
So my committee's been looking at how we get a grip of this, and there's lots of different ways in which improvements can be made. Here again is Lee Castleton describing the situation to the BBC.
There are equally as many ways that this could be simplified. There are equally as many ways that this could be made easier for the victims, and there are equally as many ways that the way that these things are processed could be changed.
We've been talking to experts far and wide about how we improve these schemes and get them working to victims. I want 2025 to be the year in which justice is finally done for the sub-postmasters. Here's the evidence for how we get this situation sorted from Sir Alan Bates himself. In your letter, you've also suggested some legally binding timetables.
Oh, yes.
Would that be a good idea?
I do, and I do think there should be penalties involved where they're not met, and those penalties should go to the victims, as I mentioned earlier, not to any other person, because that would then be compensation for having to wait and delay.
Well, I think you've given us three very good Mr. Bates tests for what this new legislation needs to do. So, this week, my committee produced a new report that shows how we sort this mess out. There are some very clear recommendations. We say that the Post Office should be taken out of the process altogether. We think there should be upfront legal advice for claimants. We think there should be hard deadlines for government lawyers to turn around the information that they get from claimants. We think there should be an independent adjudicator who can bang heads together and try and get agreements sorted, and provide that case management expertise to move claims through the process much quicker. Crucially, we think that the government has got to get a grip of the legal costs. Now, there'll be lots more issues that we have still got to get sorted, including holding to account those who oversaw this extraordinary miscarriage of justice. And crucially, there are big questions for Fujitsu, who provided the IT system, about how much they're going to chip in for the huge budget for redress payments. After all, they admitted to my committee that they were providing information that helped put the innocent into jail. And do you accept that Fujitsu evidence was used to put innocent people in prison?
Yes, there was evidence from us. We did have we were supporting rather the Post Office in their prosecutions. There was data given from us to them to support those prosecutions, so yes.
So, this is the summary that we gave to the BBC earlier on this week. We think that the Post Office needs taking out of the redress system altogether. We think there needs to be upfront legal advice for victims. And crucially, there needs to be hard deadlines for turning those claims around, getting checks in the post, with financial penalties on the government if they take too long. We're determined to make sure that 2025 is the year in which justice is finally done for those victims whose lives were shattered and ruined by the Post Office scandal. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe and share it with your friends and networks.